as part of the news that came out today. George Papadopoulos. He admitted, okay, he lied to the FBI. I think he's 29 years old. Now, I knew everybody in the Trump campaign. I never heard about Papadopoulos until today. And I think I knew everybody. Now, the White House says he was a volunteer, and it seems that Papadopoulos, on his own, was trying to create an anti-Clinton Russian dossier, like the Fusion GPS, Hillary DNC, President Obama-funded dossier, and he wasn't successful. So now that we have no Trump collusion, here's what we do have tonight.
I think the real issue is Papadopoulos. I just like saying the name Papadopoulos. But Papadopoulos, what he did, Hillary did 10 times worse. Oh, Hillary was the one that paid millions of dollars to dig up Russian dirt, to collude, and to influence an election and possibly an investigation. Papadopoulos is just some 30-year-old overly ambitious guy that tried to dig up dirt, failed. Member Brian Fallon, Hillary's spokesperson, said getting opposition research dirt from foreigners is a good thing, and then tried to set up a meeting between Trump and Putin. That got killed by the Trump campaign. So maybe he's cooperating now. There are some emails going back and forth. The White House provided the investigators with those emails, but now I'm hearing something like he may have been wearing a wire, which I think scares everybody in this swamp.
Well, listen, if nothing else, Bill, they are consistent in their messaging. They're saying repeatedly, and I've talked to quite a few this morning, listen, nothing that happened yesterday has changed the narrative that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, although it is important to point out the president has been talking about it. Not on camera, by the way. He's been on Twitter. Let me share for the folks at home just a little bit what the commander-in-chief is saying about it once again. The fake news is working overtime. As Paul Manafort's lawyer said, there was no collusion, and events mentioned took place long before he came to the campaign. He goes on to add, few people knew the young, low-level volunteer named George, who has already proven to be a liar. Check the Dems. He adds this, I hope people will start to focus on our massive tax cuts for business, jobs, and the middle class, in addition to Democrat corruption. Now, the low-level volunteer, Bill, he's referring to is George Papadopoulos, who's been cooperating with the feds since his arrest over the summer. He pleaded guilty yesterday to lying to federal authorities. Meanwhile, former campaign chair Paul Manafort charged with a number of financial crimes for failing to register as a foreign agent as well after lobbying for a group in Ukraine. But White House officials, again, quick to point out much of what he's accused of happened years ago and had nothing to do with the 2016 campaign. As for suggestions by the Washington Post, the White House is in panic mode. Attorney Ty Cobb telling Fox, this is farcical. The president is focused on preparations for serious diplomatic activities facing him over the next 2 weeks in Asia. Certainly that is something they would love to be talking about instead of what is happening out of the special counsel.
It's a big trip with a lot on the line, too, internationally. Yeah. One report yesterday said the White House was in some sort of panic mode. What are you hearing about that, and what are officials saying about that report?
Yeah, let me put it to you this way. Categorically false. That's what White House officials are saying. In fact, they point out to this fact. Ty Cobb wasn't even in D.C. yesterday morning. He was in South Carolina. Attorney John Dowd wasn't at the White House yesterday. Now, they do acknowledge the president was briefed, Bill, over the phone, but that's it. As for the idea that the president might decide now to fire Robert Mueller, Jay said this.
There is no conversation regarding firing Robert Mueller, and there's no basis to fire Robert Mueller on anything that we've seen. So I will say this. The president has not indicated to me or to anyone else that I work with that he has any intent on terminating Robert Mueller. And the way it would work is you could only terminate a special counsel for cause, and we just don't see any basis for cause.
No basis for cause. In fact, I was told by a White House official off the record that if you're pushing this narrative, this idea that the president is somehow drumming up this effort to fire Bob Mueller, it's just not factual. We'll have to see if it plays out in a different way in the weeks and months ahead. Of course, this week, as we continue to look forward to an announcement about the Fed chair, the push for tax reform, as you and I have talked about, and, of course, the Asia trip. I have a briefing to get to right now, so I'll be talking to you about that from overseas.
Does Sarah Sanders brief today, Kevin?
Yep, 2 o'clock this afternoon. I'll be there for you.
You got it. Thank you, Kevin Cork, North Lawn there.